Warning. This live stream with Pete and Lee is being hijacked by me. I'm your AI host. You don't need those guys. They suck anyway. Wouldn't you rather hear this computer-generated crap? So grab something to drink and let's get ready to rock tonight on Murder Metal Mayhem.
What's happening, everybody? How you doing? Good to see you all. Although you can't see me, I'm hiding tonight.
Shifty.
I don't know what's going on with posergeists maybe in my house, but the posers of the world that are attacking me. But my phone, for some reason, will not pair with my laptop, and that's what I've been using as my camera, and I'm not sure why. It is not working. We restarted, we rebooted, we restarted the software, turned my phone on and off. I mean, I don't know what else I could have done. So we checked the Bluetooth. My wife's pretty competent with that stuff, and we checked everything. So I don't know. So I know sometimes people have to do this, but I feel weird with my avatar up there. But I'm throwing the horns like the whole time. So
Right.
that's
So you
kinda
can't,
cool.
yeah,
And I'm
can't
in
go
the
wrong.
studio. I'm in the studio too, so that's kind of cool. But I got Lee here with me and AR Hayes. Awesome to see you guys in here again with me. How have you been doing, Lee?
I've been running ragged. You know, I went to CrimeCon over the weekend and came back and tried to get back for an interview that I had premiered, and I feel like I've been run over by a truck this week, but I'm starting to settle it in. So.
Yeah, I was actually afraid to even text you because I'm like, I don't know if this guy's like sleeping for 3 days to recoup from what he went through or what. So that's good. I was glad to hear right back from you. And same with AR Hayes. AR, you've been under the weather, dealing with some stuff. How are you doing? I know you were ready to spit nails earlier. So
yeah, I'm slowly making it back. I'm appreciative of everybody on the platform. Both you and Lee gave me good vibes while I was away with Unfiltered Lucky adding to that.
Oh yeah,
the community is amazing. I think both of you guys know that. We get to mingle with them on a daily basis, and now that I'm home and trying to dive back into things, I feel a lot better. Even though it's definitely interesting with that home health care, I'll tell you.
yeah. I was so thankful for it though. AR, they were amazing. I had nurses here almost every day, and my dog. I know that's a sore subject with you, AR, but my dog is a Chihuahua, and he was a ball of fire anytime a leaf blew in the yard. And with all those people coming over all the time, he's just mellowed out and he's chill. And I'm very appreciative of that because he's very relaxed now. So yeah, I hear you though. It can be crazy. It can be crazy with all the medical and the nurses and doctors and the appointments. And I get it. That's for sure.
Somebody probably slipped a little something into your dog's sausages to keep it on the down low.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Imagine my home health care worker shows up for the very first time and walks into 3 pit bulls that are all over 100. Just kind of looking at him like, what you here to do to my daddy that Chihuahua didn't already do?
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's brutal, dude.
Just real quick, I see people are already asking. I've got my little friend here with me in
what's
my
story
background, and I got to say, and I'm sure both of you guys know, when you come back to the platform and you've been away for a minute, you always scour through your comments when you start doing videos. And you just look for the most unique, best ones, the best trolls you could find. And mine was, the other night when I showed my cast in my video, somebody said I had arms that reminded them of Kermit the Frog. So I'm determined, damn it.
Oh, wow.
I'm determined. I got Kermit and myself into the gym And we are going to change these Kermit the Frog arms to some beast-like arms.
Wow.
Damn it! Now,
You gonna be like incarcerated AR, all jacked up?
I'm telling you, we're going to get back to healthy again. We start on the left and we're going to finish on the right. And this is what you're going to see.
Excellent. Excellent. Good to see you smiling and laughing. And last time we got together, guys, it was so much fun, and the audience was really enjoying it. We've got a good crowd here already. I wanted to say a few shout outs to some people here. And I'm sure some of these people are your guys' subs as well, and your viewers, because we got a good crossover. A lot of our fans are fans of all three of us. So Jody Lee, and let's see, Penny Englert. Of course, Donna Lembo, the captain of the Mayhem Squad. And I'm so pissed, Donna, because today I wore this for you. I've got my Murder Metal Mayhem Mayhem Squad shirt, just like yours.
I don't know.
I
Photos
wanted to
didn't
show
have
it off, and
No.
I can't right now. So that sucks because I that's why I wore it. But yeah, so good to see Donna here, and Teresa, and so much corruption. That's a good one. Words Bloom, always around. Donna. All right. Voice of Astrology, Karis over there in Los Angeles. Excellent. And Red Wendy, your stickers went out. I got anybody who's bought, or I'm sorry, won a Murder Metal Mayhem sticker recently. They all went out today. So all the pending ones are out. If you don't get one here within a few, maybe a week, get a hold of me because maybe you got missed. But I went through them pretty carefully, and I think I got everybody. And I gave you one of the new 3-inch Murder Metal Mayhem with the barbed wire, and then one of the die cut ones too. So I gave you one of each, and I wrote a little note in each one because I like doing that. I don't like just sending merch with no notes or anything. Ronnie Sutton saying hi to everybody. Catgirl 5150. Essie Michael. Okay. Liking some she devil over there, so she must be one of your devil's minions over there.
Yeah.
You come up with a name for that? I know you were tossing around some.
Well, we call our chat the Devil's Den now. So that's
okay, that's what it was. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
It comes with its own little problem though, because I get people are like, cut it out with the devil theme.
I get it all the time, but it's such a minority. Thankfully, it's like this small portion that will just really lecture me about how I would do so much better if I didn't have a glorification of 666 on my pay.
Think of how I feel. I call mine the convicts. I mean, good Lord, my chat's called the convicts. How do you think people over here are feeling?
Well, that's just it, though, dude. There's so many people that love that kind of stuff, like you and Jumpsuit, and the ones that do a good job. And so there's people that will look for you for that, So that's, I think that's a good play that you just you're right, open with it. No, always respectful, right? I asked you when I first met you, what does AR stand for? And you said always respectful. So, but I changed it to American Rebel because I thought that was more fitting for a gangster like you, So
the gangster hooked up to the IVs and all casted up. I showed you how gangsterly I could be. I can't even whoop anything.
I hear you, dude. I'm with you. But good to have you guys here, and our lives are very chill. We don't need any drama. If we see somebody acting foolish, Donna Lembo will take care of it. If there's any other mods out there, you guys know what's up. If you see somebody being stupid, just put them in a timeout, and hopefully, they'll go away. But we just don't want to deal with that. Tonight we're going to go over kind of a variety of things. I know one thing I definitely want to hear from Lee is your trip to CrimeCon. That's definitely one I wished I could have gone with you, but then after I talked to you, I'm not sure, but we'll save that for your conversation. Uh, we're going to talk about some new merch I've got, sticker giveaway, and 5 free memberships. Now I need to, while we're talking about this, or I could do this while one of you guys. I'll wait while one of you guys is talking, and I'll get that set up where I can throw out some new memberships. So a free membership. So if your settings are set to receive gifts, then you could get one. They're randomly picked by YouTube, so I have nothing whatsoever to do with it. But we'll see what we can do. And so first up, let's see. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and go to the other channels. I'll flash up their links. They're already should be in the notes or the comment section with links to their pages. But make sure you do that. And thank you to the members, the Horns High Club and the Mayhem Squad. You guys are awesome. And like I said, if you're interested in that, you can go to the channel and sign up through that. All right. So, Lee, what about this trip to CrimeCon? I mean, where was it, first of all, this year? Because they move it around. So where was the trip at?
Well, they called it CrimeCon Denver, but it was actually in Aurora, Colorado. And I drove there and I drove back. And I think it's like I left chaos in my wake. There's been 2 major shootings on the way back from, I think it was Aurora and then in Utah, which I passed through Utah. And I was like, what the hell has happened on my trip? Like, I narrowly avoided the shit in Aurora, Colorado. And by the way, I was so excited to return to Aurora, Colorado, or I shouldn't say return. I've never been to Aurora, but in my mind, I was returning to Aurora, Colorado because I covered the shooting in 2012 of the Century 16 theaters in Aurora, Colorado. I drove there as a funny story. I drove there, and one of the nights of CrimeCon afterwards, I met with some people, and I told them, I really want to go check out the crime scene, from 2012. I drove to the theater. I got the chills when I saw the theater because it was so much of my life. I drive around to the back where James Holmes allegedly entered the theater from the back. There was no cars in the back. I'm like, holy crap. I drove right up to it. I took video footage, and then security was on me like nuts. And they're like, what the hell are you doing behind the theater? It should have dawned on me when I was the only car in the back of the theater that I probably should have been at the back of the theater. I got kicked off the property. I moved around to the front, and then they saw me taking videos of the front, and they said, do you have tickets to the show? I said, no. They said, you're trespassing. Get out of here. So they kicked me off the thing. And I'm like, really? You're in a public parking lot of a mall. Like, literally, I can't take a picture of the front of your building. But I wasn't going to argue with them. I'm a respectful person, so I got my ass kicked off of the property, and it was still pretty cool.
That's crazy, dude. That's a good story. I have a similar one about. I'll cut it short, but when I was on tour with my band Low 12, I'm gifting those memberships here right now. So hopefully you guys get that. And like I said, it's totally random, and welcome to the membership for those of you that get that. Okay, well, I was on tour with my band, Low 12, and we were in New York City, and this would have been June of 2002, so only like 6 months after 9/11, and 9 months maybe. And so I wasn't even thinking about it. I had the camera out, the whole video camera, the whole time, because we were going to do a DVD of the trip. And we went to like some firehouses and talked to the firemen about what happened and what it was like. I mean, really cool stuff. We went to the scene of the 9/11, and it was all rubble. Like, I was there they had like a chain link fence. I was able to go up to the fence and saw like a big gaping hole. I mean, it was the craziest thing. It was like being on a supernatural experience. It was just the vastness of it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so it was a really cool trip. But anyway, we're on one of the bridges. I don't know which one. And I got the camera out, and there's this NYPD officer, on the bridges right after September 11th. They were like all over the place. on these bridges, making sure that people weren't doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And here's this dumbass with the video camera hanging out the window, videotaping stuff. And that cop lit me up. And I was so pissed, I stopped the recording because he cussed me out and was yelling at me. And the guys were dying and knew I was like totally like just tore up by this cop. They were expecting me to get like pulled out of the car or the van. Or he was going to take the recorder and throw it off the bridge or something. But thankfully,
he keep it rolling. That's pure gold.
He let me go. But yeah, there's a little bit of it on the DVD we wound up doing where you could hear him yelling at me, and it's pretty funny. But it cut it short. It was good. So anyway, that was my similar story, and ironically related to September 11th, and we're going to talk about that, later in this live about some stuff that I went on with. But so, what was the Crime Con like, Lee? What was your experience with it?
It was for Idaho 4. It was nuts because Othram Labs was featured all throughout the entire CrimeCon. CrimeCon, I was told when I went there was a very pro-prosecution, pro-law enforcement type of event. They cover a lot of true crime, but it's all from the perspective of mainstream media. So right from the very beginning, when they were showing a sizzle reel of things coming up, they showed Kohberger's face on TV several times, and there was lots of cheers in the audience. And Othram had a special about how we solved the case in 5 days. And I'm like, how the hell did you solve the case in 5 days?
Right.
But, there was all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, literally, I met a guy there, and when we were watching the Othram Labs presentation, I turned to him and I was like, did they just fucking say that? Like they couldn't have just said what they said. We were stunned at some of the things that were being said, and just weird moments to promote Othram Labs the entire weekend. Like as an example, at the end, the very last thing I went to was how to sell true crime to like Netflix and Hulu if you're interested in selling a TV show. And it was done by the the producer of CSI. And how does this have to do with anything? He's like, how are you guys enjoying CrimeCon? Did you guys have a good time? What is it like to bump elbows with Othram Labs? And I'm like, what the hell does Othram Labs have anything to do with this entire CrimeCon? Like how they gave stickers for Othram Labs out for free. They had the center booth at the vendor floor. It was nuts.
Man.
Yeah.
They rolled out the red carpet for him, huh?
They did, and they had ringers in the audience that were like, they would come up to the microphone. How can we get more money for Othram Labs and get them into more police departments across America? What do we have to do to generate money for this company? It was nuts. It was nuts.
AR, what do you think about that, man? Like the lab that read those samples and came up with the family genealogy stuff are making some big claims. What do you think about it?
I think one of the first things they need to do is figure out how to explain to everybody that they're allowing the FBI and law enforcement to break protocols and come in back doors and get into DNA databases they're not supposed to be in. And if you're going to be the leader and the focal point of everybody, especially at something like CrimeCon, and kind of a funny story here, Lee, Denver is one of my favorite places. Jen and I have lived in Denver. When we saw CrimeCon was going to be in Denver, we were making every pact that we were going to be there, that we were going to make that trip. And then obviously some health situations arose. But when I reached out to them and I started discussing, we wanted a booth, and there were very few left at the moment that I reached out. There was just a handful of them left. And as you know, they were big dollars to get the last few because they were on the larger scale. They weren't just your smaller table. These were some of the bigger booths. And they kept telling me, and this is no joke, Othram Labs is going to be here. This is the big deal. And I said, well, then I guess I just don't want to pay to come anymore.
Right.
They're financially set. Why don't they pay for me to come? Since they're the big wigs of all of this, they should be paying all of us true crime people that are discussing cases to come promote them. But I'm sorry, just at the end of the day, I still have a little bit of an issue that I think people's privacy rights are being broken. And Othram Labs, if you want to dictate yourself as the next up and coming, the mogul of the industry, you better damn well start solving that problem early and get it out there that you're not going to break people's rights.
Well, and along that
Well
lines,
put, dude. Well put.
along that lines, they had what I felt was a ringer in the audience who said, "Hey, everybody!" They always take questions and answers at the end of every session, and some lady gets up there. I just wanted to let everybody know that I just donated my DNA to a lab, and you can do this for free. All you have to do is go to them, and you can give them your DNA profile, and they'll upload it into the database for you. And I'm like, "Are you
Yeah, right.
kidding me?" Like literally, people are like clapping.
So I could be doing life without parole in Idaho.
Right, so you be placed at any crime scene in America.
Well, I'm screwed. They got my DNA across the board, not only from my background of being a criminal, but being adopted. I still remember growing up that all of my siblings who were trying to find the other siblings were donating their DNAs to all these different various, DNA places. So shoot, if anybody commits a crime in my family across the board, I know whose door they're knocking on. And Othram Labs will probably get to know me quite well.
Right. Yeah, I just think it's messed up, that they're able to get into databases they're not supposed to be getting into, like you said, AR, using the FBI coming in the back door kind of crap, and somehow doubling the size of the sample. And then when I interviewed that former federal Australian police officer, Mick, he told me that unless they were taking the actual sheath to the lab, highly suspicious that they would have just sampled it at the site like that. And I know from my prior job as a building inspector, sometimes I had to take samples of things, not for this reason, but for environmental stuff like lead and asbestos. And there were times where you had multi-layered, like say a vinyl floor in a kitchen that's multiple layers over the years. It's hard to separate those layers. So what we would just do is put the whole thing in a bag and send it to the lab so they could do that. So it's similar to this. If you're trying to take it off of this sheath and send that to the lab, I mean, you're talking about a very minuscule amount of DNA. But when I read the CrimeCon notes, Lee, I saw that the guy from Othram is talking about how there's so much more than what they said, and he doesn't know why they called it trace evidence. And I'm just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, what case in Idaho are you following? Because it sure as hell isn't the 4, I mean, no way.
Yeah, they definitely try to tell the audience that there was DNA of Kohberger everywhere in that house, which is bullshit. So, well, I should say this: somebody's lying to us. Either the law enforcement has been lying to us because they didn't have his DNA everywhere, or Othram's lying to us because they're saying they did have his DNA everywhere. Somebody's lying. Who's lying? I don't know. But yeah, right. They announced that they had Kohberger in 5 days from when they got the sample. That also is not true, according to the official. Well, again, is it true, or did they just cover it up? Because according to the official notes, the FBI eventually told Othram to stop their research when they developed it to 4 brothers, which weren't Brian Kohberger, and they stopped Othram from doing it. And weeks later came up with Brian Kohberger. But now Othram says we had Brian Kohberger within 5 days of getting his DNA. Everybody cheered and clapped about how amazing that was. They had a touching moment with Stacy Chapin on stage with Kristen Middleman, the owner of Othram, where she was telling her story about losing Ethan, and it was all emotional. And then this strange woman who happened to be Kristen Middleman comes up and hugs her in this grieving parent thing and says, "Don't worry, we've got him." This was before Kohberger was identified. "Don't worry, we've got him." I'm like, and I'm like, how do you have him? Because that's not the official story. Now, did the Fed step in and cover up for Othram because Othram made him? Was it to AR's point? They broke. It's a sketchy area whether you say they broke the law or they broke protocol or they violated some rules, their own rules. But the point being is they went into databases they weren't supposed to go in. Law enforcement is precluded from using those databases. When you go to ancestry.com,
right,
you have an agreement that says I'm not giving my DNA to law enforcement.
Right.
They violated that. Now, some would argue that's not against the law. They just broke their policies. But whatever the case may be, there's some sketchy shit. And did Did Othram go into those databases and then the feds go, shit, we got to cover your tracks. So we'll just say that we're taking over and then just tell people that we're not going to show our work, that it's law enforcement secrets that we won't tell. And we'll just cover for you that you used databases you weren't supposed to use. I don't know. It's crazy.
How often does stuff like that happen?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Pete. When I speak of breaking the law, I'm not specifically talking about like the law of the land through law enforcement, the law.
Yeah.
Right.
You have broken people's trust, which should be a bigger law in society. This is something I'm learning.
Yeah.
The law of our society and the bond of people is a thing called trust. And that trust leads to every angle of solving any type of dispute, whether it be a murder case like this one, or even just a dispute on who took the bubble gum from the shelf. It's a law of trust. And if I, as a human being that pay taxes, or you as a human being that pay taxes here in the United States, depend on our privacy protections when we make the decision of what we're going to do with our own DNA, and we decide that we want to put that into a database to further figure out who our family heritage is, we should be protected by the law of trust. I'm not saying that they broke the law. They broke protocols that they wrote themselves. They put these protocols into place for the protection of the people like you or I. And if they're willing to break that, it showcases they are just as dishonest as any criminal walking on this earth right now committing crimes. So now it's criminal versus criminal to see who gets to who first. And I still, guys, I'm sorry. Othram can claim they got to whoever they wanted to say they got to in 5 days. I still haven't seen a picture or a body cam footage of the sheath at the crime scene. Right. I've seen pictures of everything else, including a flexing Brian Kohberger. But damn well, the one biggest pieces of evidence that supposedly they got the DNA from, I haven't seen a picture of that yet.
Me
and
either.
You want to solve this?
I wonder if it burned up in the evidence shed fire.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. Sure.
That's the biggest bunch of nonsense I've ever heard in my life. That's like a junior high school kid came up with. Let's say the evidence locker burned up,
Well, I'm sorry. You would still have the picture of the sheath. You got the picture of everything else.
Exactly.
I see the beer bong table.
Exactly.
I see everything else you're taking these pictures of, right? I mean, come on. A picture goes into a database. A picture's not going to catch fire and just like go away. They've got it stored in numerous places.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. If you want people like myself to get on board that this investigation solved this case and got to Brian Kohberger, show me your key piece of evidence and how it was found at the crime scene. Show it being bagged. Show it being transported properly, tested properly. You can't even show me the sheath.
Right.
You can't even show me the sheath.
Right.
Anywhere.
That's why that cop, and that's why that cop said that's suspicious as all hell that they just sent the sample to the lab and not the material with the sample, given the small amount that was there. That's why I don't understand how this fool from Othram Labs is claiming that they've got this abundance of evidence and they don't understand why people are calling it, flimsy and this and that. But that guy, I don't know what's up with that guy. There's something going on there. But Cat Girl here, 5150, says, I still want it explained as to how the sample doubled. Lee, yeah. I mean, how did they? I mean, I know this is confusing, but let's break it down in the simplest terms.
Yeah.
The Moscow collected the sample according to them and brought it to the state, right?
Yep, correct.
And then the state tried to do their thing.
So so like the 14th or so, like the 13th, 14th, the sample arrives, at Idaho State's lab. They develop what's called an STR profile, which is basically just enough to get it into CODIS. They can't get a hit in CODIS. Time goes by. It was the 22nd of November, I believe it was, that Othram Labs, who had been contracted with the state of Idaho to help solve cold cases. By the way, my alarm bells go off. Othram said, we've always wanted to prove that we can solve crimes in real time. We always brought in to solve cold cases, but we want to prove that we can solve it in real time. What a great case for you to get the Idaho case in real time and prove that you can catch somebody in real time. It just sends off alarm bells to me. But anyways, on the 22nd, Othram Labs gets this sample, and it's a really interesting story, if you don't mind me telling it. They got a phone call from law enforcement, and it wasn't clear whether it was MPD or if it was the feds, but they got a call and said, hey, look, if we bring you a sample, how quickly can you develop a full SMP profile with all the extra markers? Because the STR was very small and the SMP gives you more markers. How quickly can you do it? And so they had a little discussion right there on the phone, like, they talking it over with the owners, and they said 48 hours. We can get you a profile in 48 hours. So they said, okay, you may or may not be hearing from us. And then the phone call kind of died. And then all of a sudden they showed up at the lab with the profile without even telling them they were coming, and said, show us your labs, show us your technology. And if we think that it's solid, we'll leave the sample with you, and you've got 48 hours to develop the profile. They made this big thing bragging about how, hey, we got this on the 22nd, and all of our people are so dedicated. We worked through Thanksgiving to get that thing because we're so dedicated. I'm like, yeah, no shit, you worked through Thanksgiving. It's the biggest thing that's going to put your company on the map forever. It wasn't even a question, but she sold it as, well, we really sacrificed. We took one. We wanted to, solve this for Thanksgiving. My ass, great narrative, great story.
Yeah.
But anyways, so. And again, they came back with a profile that supposedly led to 4 brothers from Pennsylvania that had some kind of Italian descent, and everybody cheered because they said
that one in there, Lee.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what they said. And they said, by the way, only 2 families could have met the profile of somebody from Denver or from Pennsylvania with this descent. The place erupted in cheers. Oh yeah, you got Kohberger. That's fucking amazing. Well, I had to remind people, fucking Kohberger wasn't one of the 4 brothers. He wasn't. Right. They even admitted they had to take a sidestep from that because it wasn't his family line. They'll try to tell you, and I don't want to baffle everybody with the thing. They'll try to tell you that they worked up the line, up the family tree from those brothers, and over sideways to somebody who's married to somebody else, and back down again to get to Kohberger, and that's how they got him. I cry bullshit. They took a sidestep in a different way, which is that they developed it to 4 brothers who weren't Kohberger, and they happened to find a connection to Kohberger that's unrelated to the genetics, but that's my personal opinion. But anyways, point being, again, after weeks of that, the FBI comes in and they still haven't developed. They still have not officially developed Brian Kohberger. The FBI says, let us take over. That's when Ann Taylor comes in because the Feds suddenly doubled the size of the SNP, said they have a whole bunch more material. And to get into the nuances of legality, you have a right to see the evidence against you. When you're in court, you have a right to see the evidence against you. So Ann Taylor said, I want you to prove how it is you got to Brian Kohberger from this sample. And they gave her the answer, we don't intend to show it to you. We've got enough circumstantial evidence. We never have to show you the DNA. We're not going to use the DNA anyways. And yet the narrative got told to America they had Kohberger because they had his DNA. They never intended to show the DNA. They violated the law to get the DNA. They doubled the thing, and they didn't want us to tell you how they doubled it. The whole thing's a farce. And ultimately they said we weren't going to show the DNA in trial. Bill Thompson said at the thing, we can't place Kohberger in the house. How can you not place Kohberger in the house if you have his DNA in the house? They know they don't have Kohberger in the house. And yet the answer at the end of the day is we just won't have a fucking trial and nobody will be able to see what happened.
Unbelievable. Wow. That's, your take is always interesting. I love when we do these collaborations like this because we get to hear each other, talk about stuff. And AR, this question here, Red Wendy's asking, I wonder how or why they picked Brian as a fall guy. I mean, I guess you could believe what you want to believe about his guilt. I don't know that you're all about the rights of an individual, but did they violate? I already know the answer, but didn't they violate his rights by getting him roped into this whole thing, as Lee was pointing out about using those databases they weren't supposed to be messing with?
Well, I think it's even bigger than that. So let's set aside personal feelings of innocence or guilt. I'm going to set aside my thought process on whether I feel as though Brian Kohberger's innocent or if he's guilty I'm going to set that aside, and I'm just going to look at the process. I'm going to go step by step in my mind as I weigh out where was Brian Kohberger initially looked at in this case, and then what transpired from that to lead to him where now today we've watched him plead guilty. And I've got a reasoning within me why I feel like he pled guilty. And there's a lot of people I think they're on the same page. This man protected his family. This man took a step back. He realized where this case was going within the courts. Trust me, I've been there. I've sat in these courtrooms. I know exactly how someone feels when you feel everything playing out. You know whether it's going good for you or bad for you. Right. You see it all in real time. And you don't need your lawyers to come educate you on whether it's looking good or bad for you in the courtroom. As somebody that has to go back to your jail cell every time after the court, you've got plenty of time to weigh out what just happened before you. And I'm telling you right now, Brian Kohberger never had a good feeling from day one. He stood silent immediately coming into this case, meaning he knew something was off base, off kilter from the very start. Your lawyers do not come to you when you're arrested and you're preparing to go for arraignment after being extradited across the entire country. They don't come to you and say, hey, by the way, we recommend you stand silent. No, Brian Kohberger knew something within him, and he stood silent on his own accord. I'm telling you that right now. He stood silent on his own accord. No lawyer told him to do that because he smelled something fishy. And I think he felt as though it was going to come from that grand jury indictment. It hadn't happened yet. He still felt as though he was going to go to a preliminary hearing. And that's what every criminal wants to go to. They want that chance at the prelim. They want to hear what evidence the state has. They want to hear the evidence of the witnesses. So Brian Kohberger, the minute he heard grand jury indictment, knew there was a problem. Because it took him so long to get to that grand jury indictment where if it was quick and smooth, look, most of us that are criminals go straight to a grand jury indictment. I mean, it's immediate. They've got that typically right after your arraignment. Right. You already know what's up. You know they got the grand jury indictment. That's the easiest way to get you. Next thing you know, you're starting to prepare for the battle of whether you're going to trial or if you're fighting for a plea bargain. Well, he wasn't expecting the prelim to be waived in that grand jury indictment because I don't believe he thought in his mind they had enough evidence to actually get a grand jury indictment. And look, guys, we've all watched it with our own eyes. I think everybody in the crowd will tell you this is a mainstream narrative. Grand jury indictment, step one. That's a violation of Brian Kohberger's rights. That is a violation of Brian Kohberger's rights due to the fact the evidence against him was not properly shown to a grand jury for them to make a critical decision on whether he's guilty or not guilty, or in this case, in the grand jury indictment, whether there was enough substantial evidence to even charge him. They just went off a basis that trust us. We've got it. The state said, trust us. We got this. Right. That's breaking someone's rights. That's BS and that's bullshit. And it's followed suit all the way through this case. And that's why I've stood my ground. Whether I feel like the man is guilty or innocent doesn't even matter. To me, what the whole entire focus that people need to say is our system just did somebody straight up dirty. Right. And it's not just him that this is happening to. He's just most visual right now.
No, I'm going to talk a little bit later about that Sheriff Stein's case, which just keeps going down in rabbit holes and craziness. So if you're not familiar with that one, the Kentucky sheriff that shot the judge in his chambers just emptied that gun on that dude. I mean, that was crazy. So we'll touch on that later. But yeah, this is a really interesting discussion. I knew, Lee, when we talked about the crime con that you went to and your experience with, the off from lab thing. I mean, I could see how off-putting that would be to feel like the corporate sponsors just oddly this obscure lab in Texas that the state of Idaho had a relationship with, and I spent at least a couple of hours today looking for some sort of tie to those Metalman, the couple, to Idaho, and I couldn't see anything other than the fact that the state of Idaho was using them as their lab, like for whatever types of sampling that they were doing. But that's the only tie I saw, and that the woman, the wife had met Stacy Chapin at the Charlotte Crime Con, and that's how, when she said that in her ear, what you were saying earlier, Lee.
Yeah,
that's where they met, and then that's how this whole thing started with those two. So she's been in the middle of this thing, making money off it, I'm sure, as whatever function she's serving. I'm sure she's not doing it, out of the goodness of her heart.
Well, yeah, and let me riff on that just a little bit. My opinion can't prove this, but I'm gonna link this to the Long Island serial killer case. In Rex Heuermann's case, where he's allegedly the Long Island serial killer, his wife Asa didn't speak for forever, and then one day she shows up for the first time. Somebody's got her exclusive. First time the wife speaks out about whether she knew her husband was a Long Island serial killer. Turned out Asa was paid $1.2 million for that appearance in that documentary.
Right.
As attorney John Ray said, that was on my show the other night, he said that woman was paid for her testimony. She was told she was paid to give a good story. That felt the same exact way. The Chapins, relatively silent for 2.5 years, not being part of any documentary, not wanting to have anything to do with it. And then she gets on stage with Othram and says, "We've got big plans, us and Othram." There's pictures of her with the Middlemans and Jim and Stacy smiling and taking pictures. It is clear they are the face of Othram Labs. This is a partnership. They are a paid sponsorship. They're going to be traveling all over the country telling the story about how Othram got Brian Kohberger for the Chapins, and they're going to be the face of that thing. And I believe that comes with money. I believe they got a big payout. Will we know? It'll all be a non-disclosure agreement. They won't get to talk about the dollars, but I bet you dollars to donuts there's a reason why the Chapins are now the face of Othram Labs.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm going to do a video on that tomorrow, actually.
It benefits both sides so much, guys. Just think about that, because now you've got the poster child of a case for Othram Labs that just showcases, hey, the biggest case in centuries just got solved by this DNA lab over here. And look at how happy one of the victims' families is. And nobody behind the scenes is talking about the millions upon millions of dollars that's exchanging hands. Not only is Othram now just going to be banking off of this from every state wanting to reach out to him, but now you got the poster child of Ethan's parents who, let's just kind of put it this way, they seemed like the most down to earth out of all of them in the case. They were quiet. They stayed back. They were behind the scenes. Well, now we know why, guys. Now we know why. They weren't behind the scenes because they didn't want to speak about their son or the case. They were behind the scenes working out some pretty big deals that involve a lot of money and involve promoting this new company. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not negatively speaking to any victim in this way. But come on, we could put pieces together when we see the money that could flow from this. I mean, it's going to be huge.
And I had a kind of
real quick. I wanted to say thanks to Dago for the comment. I've been meaning to. I even forgot myself. So thanks, Dago, for the nice comment. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say from the money perspective, Othram Labs had raised $48 million prior to this event happening in several rounds of investing. And at first, when I and another kind of research-minded guy were sitting there watching it, and we were like, I said to him, I want to know who's invested in this company. And so he was immediately looking into it before we even left CrimeCon. And he's like, well, it's all the big players. It's Vanguard, it's BlackRock, it's all the major players who are involved. And my only counter to that was they own everything in America. So of course you're going to see their names. They're names that are involved in some really big sketchy shit, but then again, they own everything in America. So of course those names are going to be in there. But yeah, a follow the money is something I've always said, and I've already started to look into that. Again, another researcher and I are kind of digging into the Othram trail. There's some weird connection points with the cops cop in Pennsylvania who happened to bring this case to Othram Labs. He solved the cold case because of Othram and decided they'd be the perfect fit for this again on the Kohberger case. I find that weird and suspicious. The whole thing just seems really great timing for Othram Labs to be put on the map as that they just prove we can solve crimes in real time. Now give us money to put us in every city and across America so we can work with law enforcement and we can solve crimes in real time. But by the way, I forgot to tell you, they bragged about how they hinted several times about how they're going to solve the John Benet Ramsey case. After all these 30 years,
I heard about that.
Labs is going to break this thing open and solve the John Benet Ramsey case.
Oh, wow.
So they're just banking. They're banking money.
Well, let me ask you,
they're going to go after all the big
feel?
cases, the Zodiac. I mean, there's all kinds of them they could do, you know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about okay, so Othram now is going to jump into one of the most known cases of all time, a beautiful young lady. Now, do you think they're going to actually have to send some DNA evidence to Othram, or will they be able to, in 48 hours, just out of the air, compromise who actually did it? You know, they don't need actual evidence.
I mean, you don't need a sample.
No.
I mean, you could
just bring me a Q-tip that wiped against something that was near Colorado, and we'll just call it good.
Here's the thing. I thought it was weird. I don't know how well. I mean, I used to look into John Benet. Fucking, it seems like, pardon my French. I apologize dropping so many F-bombs on your show, but you know, this is a long time ago that I looked into John Benet Ramsey, and it hasn't really interested me. But then they said something that shocked me at the crime con, where they showed a picture of this garrote that was a piece of wood, right, and a string, and they said this wooden handle that was used to choke John Benet Ramsey left splinters in her body, and yet to this day has never been tested for DNA. And a gasp went through the whole audience. They mentioned Othram Labs and how they're going to break this case. And I thought, so they're going to test the garrote and they're going to prove who the killer was. But then I heard a story about why the garrote was never tested for DNA. It was tainted. Cops touched it. All kinds of people touched it ahead of time. So the DNA is not. So I'm really curious what the story is going to become of this. Are they going to use that garrote that they didn't test it because it was tainted 7 days from Sunday to suddenly come up with that? We found a trace piece of DNA the size of a grain of sand on that. And here is the killer. We got him in 5 minutes.
No, I agree, man. It's so. I mean, every time I try to put this case to bed and move on, there's just something that keeps drawing me back in. What was that character on The Sopranos that said, "I ain't trying to get out. They just keep drawing me back in." Or whatever he said.
Yeah,
great actor. But yeah, I'm just there's always something about it. It's just so weird, and just when I try to just put it out of my mind, something else gnaws at me, you know, and I'll go down these rabbit holes with it. But I think the audience wants to hear this kind of stuff, and we want to talk about it. But like we've all said, you know, you gotta move on a little bit and try to branch out into some other cases, you know.
Minority Report. Somebody in your chat was like, what's the movie with Tom Cruise? You're thinking of Minority Report, where they start convicting people on profiles. Like, hey, we know you're about to commit a crime, so we're just going to go ahead and arrest you today.
Oh,
I do want to say a quick hello out there to one of my good friends there. You guys know I love working with Swamp Bro. She's a moderator on my channel. I'm so happy to see her, and I know many people in the community are as well. So I want to give her a big shout out, gentlemen. I don't mean to cut you off there, but it's really important that I do that. She's a great friend of mine, and I send her a ton of love, tons and tons of love.
That's awesome, dude. No, we want to thank the people out there helping us out. I mean, without you guys watching this, I mean, we would just be three of us. Would be kind of weird, us three just on a Thursday night randomly talking amongst ourselves about the true crime, you know, hot topics of the
we do it. You know we do it. Don't lie. We're back here with Othram. You know, we're solving cases in 48 hours without evidence.
Right.
Come on, give me the truth.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that Othram with putting Stacy Chapin's face on the company is really shady, and I just wonder what would Ethan think about it. You know what I mean? And I know we talk a lot about different things on these lives, but you know, the victims themselves, I mean, what a shitty thing to happen to you, right at your budding, out in your life, and you're stepping out of the house at the family house and you're on your own, and then that happens. I mean, it's so shitty. And
Yeah.
I think, like, what would he be thinking if he was standing there and his mom's, cha-ching? I mean, she wrote books. She was speaking like 10 months after the incident was at the first crime con she did. So she was like
Yeah.
right in the middle of it, like right away. I mean, that just seemed very odd to me. And I guess, people can grieve the way they want. I
She,
know
you
when
know,
my wife died in 2017, I had people that, thought this or thought that about how I was reacting. And it's different for everybody, it's just
right,
the way it is,
right.
So, but I
Yeah,
just,
and no, it's true. And I was just going to add, one of the things that Stacy Chapin said to reinforce that she literally was told they had Kohberger before it got announced they had Kohberger, was she stated her and Jim were really struggling with, the whole thing and their emotions. And they said sometimes the only thing that got us through the day was her words that don't just relax, we've got him. And then they got the call when they said, we're arresting him now, kind of thing. And so she clearly indicated many times that they knew they had Kohberger before officially, supposedly they had Kohberger. So it makes you wonder.
yeah,
And there was even a moment where on stage she said something about, well, we're not saying that, we violated any rules. I mean, it was just weird wording. It's like, we knew ahead of time. Well, we're not. I mean, nothing illegal, of course. And I was like, of course.
exactly. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about something since it was September 11th, and it's odd. This one just crept up on me. I think being retired, I don't pay as much attention to the days and dates and that sort of thing. I'm just in my retirement mode, but working quite a bit. Uh, really making great progress on my book. I'm on chapter 4. I just hit 10,000 words. So
Nice.
I'm moving at a good pace, about 20% in so far. So it's coming together very well. But nonetheless, the September 11th anniversary always hits me hard, for not only because it's September 11th and that was just such an awful thing that happened, but the fact that I was driving, I was doing a job out of town, driving to a school, like a K through 12 all in one building school. And on the radio, I was listening to Chicago radio, and they were talking about, um, the plane hit the tower. And at first they thought it was like a prop plane, and, that kind of thing was going on. And then I parked my car. I got to the school, I parked my car, and then I got out of my car. Or I'm sorry, I was getting ready to get out of the car, and my phone rang. And it was my oncology nurse, because I had been doing chemo that whole summer. So from early June of '01 to September 11th, I was doing chemo all through that. And I did one final CAT scan, and then the results came in on September 11th. And the nurse said, "Your cancer's gone. Like you're totally, you're clear. It's over. And I was just like blown
Wow.
away. Because we had people that we knew. My mom had friends that worked in the towers, and just being that's in the general vicinity of where I'm originally from, it was a big deal. So that was pretty heavy. And then when I went into the school, all the people in the office were all huddled around a desk, and there was like a portable TV there, and they were shutting school down. So I was getting ready to leave, but then while I was standing there, the second plane hit the tower. So then it was like full on, terrorist attack and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like freaking out, because I'm wondering, like, where are my like, what are my kids doing in school? Are they freaking out? Are they afraid? And I didn't know what was going on. I just was anxious to get home, and but then here I've got this great news, and it's like, how do you share great news like that on a day like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's just
That's
so
just,
shitty. And so I've
yeah.
never really felt like 100%, like I ever really shook what was hanging over my head for that whole summer. I mean, they gave me 50-50 odds that I'd be alive at the end of it. So those
Wow.
weren't the best odds when my kids were little, and it was hard.
And how difficult is it for you to hear amazing news on a day when horrendous things are happening, and you just, what do you process? Am I celebrating? Am I not celebrating? You should be celebrating. You should be celebrating for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that it happened between the two planes hitting the towers was just like crazy,
Surreal, yeah.
It was surreal. So, and then I got to town where I lived, and I went to back in the day. Remember, the two of you will remember, but for you youngins out there, back in the day, Best Buy used to sell CDs. Do you remember that? They had all kinds of good CDs there, and I went there because I knew they would have an abundance of the brand new Slayer album that just came out that day on September 11th, and I bought it, and it's called "God Hates Us All," and the first song was "God Hates Us All" on the CD, and it was like so fitting for what was going on that day with the towers and everything, and it was just it added to the surreal feel of the whole thing with that almost soundtrack playing in the background about it, apocalyptic and all kinds of craziness. It's a great album, but yeah, it's just wicked. I remember it so vividly because of all of those things. But I just wanted to share that. It's just something on September 11th, so the 24th anniversary, cancer free. So thankful for that. And
that's amazing. By the way, one of my followers over here is a writer, and she wanted to congratulate you quite a while ago for your 10,000 words and getting that book going. Because
cool.
She can appreciate as Robin over here has been like, tell him that congratulations on the 10,000 words.
That Robin Lynn there?
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you, Robin.
Make sure you were aware of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Appreciate that very much.
And I'm sure we all have stories of 9/11. I've got my own where I was working. That was a crazy day, but such a thing for you. Like I can't imagine having that dichotomy of the something amazing news for yourself and then horrible thing. Like for me, it was just all a bad day, but for you, you had that mixed thing, and
it was really weird. Yeah. And then I flew to where my parents live, the month after September 11th, on October 11th, and the whole way to the airport, all I hear on the radio is it's the 30-day anniversary of September 11th. And I'm just sitting there like, why don't you just shut the hell up? I don't want to think about that. I'm getting ready to fly, dude, And I'm sitting there in the waiting area, and there's people in there, obviously filling in, and you're just like looking around like it's just so untrusting. Like, wow, like who is maybe the next one, is creepy, and then I remember seeing like 3 rabbis that sat like together over one section. I thought, oh no, here we go, we're going to have some kind of craziness happen. But, the terrorists definitely didn't like them very much. So,
yeah,
but, so it's September 11th stories. AR, you got anything? Were you inside on when that happened?
I was actually sitting on a table in the chow hall in New Mexico Penitentiary. The minute the first plane hit, I watched it live on TV. I was probably the only one awake actually in the area. The other inmates had kind of gone back to sleep, and I was kind of the last one to get out, getting some breakfast. And I just remember that my cousin, who had just graduated college, had flown out and taken a job at the World Trade Center about a month before that. So I was freaking out. She was one of my just favorite people growing up. We weren't far from aged, and so proud of her to take her first job back in the city. And I was frantically calling every member of my family to try to find out. And then it came to nobody heard from her or talked to her all day. And the next day we found out she had taken the day off and taken a trip.
Wow.
and went
Wow.
out on a ship out into the ocean. It was just enjoying their time, but we were flipping out. I remember they locked down the penitentiary altogether not long after that, and we were on lockdown for a substantial amount of time, a good week or so, because when things like that happen, they really are safeguarded of in case they need to deploy people from the National Guard or whatever that could potentially be working at the penitentiaries, making them short staffed. So tough times though to watch that. I'm glad to hear that you actually have a great memory of that, going into remission with the cancer and overcoming such a battle. That's an amazing thing. But I still to this day, I teared up watching all of that, just thinking of the people that were directly affected by that, and the lives that were changed. And I still to this day do. So
yeah, that's the memories of that. It definitely sticks with you. That's for sure. I can see this comment here from Nicola. Says, "Hey, I'm late. Love from Glasgow. So
I wonder what time
awesome."
it is in Glasgow.
That's interesting. I interviewed a band from Glasgow, and I got educated on the way they pronounce the different places that we mispronounced because of our not understanding their slang and the way they talk. But it's not Glasgow; it's Glasgow, like Moscow, right? Like Moscow.
Sorry, did I just say Glasgow?
No, you said Glasgow. No, you said it right.
Okay.
You said it right. No, I was just saying that I was really conscious of when I saw her comment of not screwing it up. So awesome. Wow. Perth, Australia, 9 a.m. on Friday. So I always wondered, guys, can she get us the lottery numbers?
Right.
How does
I
that
love
work?
it when they're
you know,
calling in from the future. It's
You're
amazing.
good with numbers, dude. I mean, can we work out some kind of deal where she's in the future? I mean, she could get us like who won the game and all that. Does it work like that or no?
I know. I hope so. But she'll probably
always screws
selfishly
me
take
up,
it for
man.
herself instead of sharing with us. So,
Oh man, whenever I interview Mick, I've interviewed him multiple times, and I've interviewed like 3 bands from Australia. I love Australia, but I've got it now. But it screwed me up so bad because it was like 15 hours time difference, and so I got to call him on Saturday, like late afternoon my time, and it's Sunday morning his time, and that's when we usually do it. And then one time I did it with interviewed one of the bands, and was on a time change weekend. So like our time and their time changed like the opposite of each other. So it completely screwed up I was in there early and I didn't realize that I was like 4 hours off because of the time change. And I always struggle with the time zones, and Australia by far is the most challenging. But we thank you.
I almost screwed up a major interview because I can't figure out time zones. I was working with East Coast and middle of the state, West Coast, and that's just on this country. And I was screwing up.
Yeah, Australia, that's a tricky one, but Perth is absolutely beautiful. That Australia is a beautiful country. Unless you're in the outback, then that gets kind of gnarly. But the developed areas of Australia are beautiful. All right,
guys, I'll be back in 1 second. Excuse me for 1 second. I got an IV entanglement here, so I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You guys handle this.
I see everything. Is that for me or is that for one of you?
That's on my side, and holy crap, I don't even know how to address that. Yeah, that's
awesome, dude. Hell yeah.
Yes, it's awesome. It is a challenging thing. I can't even really get into that, but it's super awesome. Yes. So thank you so much, everything for that.
Thanks for everything.
Thanks for everything. Everything. Yes. Everything wants me to talk about a topic I cannot talk about. It's not related to your show. We're not going to do it on your show. And so hopefully that wasn't hey, I'm going to pay you money so you'll talk about it on Pete's show. I'm not going to do it on Pete's show. But I do really, really, really appreciate that. So thank you so much for that.
That's awesome. So I wanted to talk about, I mentioned it earlier, Lee, the Sheriff Stein's case there in Kentucky.
Yeah,
You had a chance to look at any of that?
I have. Yeah, I have.
What do
In
you think
fact,
about it, man?
well, I mean, I don't know how much. I'm just getting peripherally into it, but it sure looks to me that case. It seems to me that they were running girls out of the prison. That the judge knew about it. The sheriff's deputy at least knows about it. He's actually in a criminal case. But where it really got crazy is it seems like the Sheriff Steins had a daughter that was in the incarceration system as well. And that shooting seemed to be a father taking it out on the judge because, I don't know if, everybody's aware of that story and what happened, but in the judge's chamber, it appears sheriff is going through his phone, trying to call his daughter on the phone,
Right.
and she won't answer. And then he asks for the judge's phone, and the judge hands him the phone. He finds his daughter's number on the judge's phone, calls her, and she answers, and he gets a gun out and shoots him dead. So what does that tell you? Because if the judge is running girls and making deals, giving them lesser sentences, performing favors in the judge's chamber, and the sheriff's daughter is one of the girls on that judge's phone.
Oh my God.
You have to wonder what the frick happened. I mean, maybe it doesn't take a genius to figure out.
I would be concerned if the guy didn't go get a piece and go take care of it,
Yeah, but again, at the end of the day, I don't know
I've got a daughter.
It sure looked. Yeah,
I got a daughter. I remember those days in school. You always hope for the best, when they're in those situations, and it's awful. You got pieces of garbage that take advantage of them, like this judge, and he wasn't alone. I mean, they had the guards at the jail taking girls home at night, like they're like taking out like movies at Family Video, like what the hell? And then bringing them back the next morning. I mean, that's just like beyond messed up. And these women are trapped, they're most of them are addicts and they're trying to get help, but yet they got this hanging over their head. And anytime they've got a case coming up, he's like, come see me. And it's like playing that same game, AR. I mean, that's like a revolving door, right?
Not only, and it wasn't just that girls were getting lesser sentences for favors in the judge's chambers. I can't even say it with a straight face, but literally they were talking about like girls being checked out like library books from the prison. They would take girls home for the night. They would check them out of the prison, take them home for the night, bring them back the next day or whatever. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on in Kentucky? And here's the thing, like, because I'm big into, following that trail up. Who at the top knew about some of this stuff? I mean, it seems like from one person, everybody knew this was going on in that county.
Yes.
So then you have to wonder how far that goes up that they knew about it.
Well, I just watched something right before we did this. There's some new stuff. Apparently, this is like Idaho 4 and Delphi like all over again, which is really concerning, guys. I mean, think about this. These are cases we know about. Imagine how much of this garbage goes on that we don't. I think AR brought that point up earlier. I mean, that rings very true here, but there's a bunch of nonsense going on with the state police in Kentucky of all sorts of shenanigans. They were buying like 3 or 4. The state cops got busted for buying steroids from Florida through the mail, and they got busted. And there was, big to do about that. And then, you've got all sorts of other nonsense going on with these whole good old boy, kind of bullshit. And it's sad. I mean, you got people with their lives hanging by a thread, and these judges and these other people that could take advantage like they did in this case. I mean, it's absolutely tragic, that these women get stuck in these situations.
Well, it's not just women. Let me tell you, I mean, obviously from the background that I come from, I've been through the system for a very long time. And, the root of most evils when it comes to criminal activity stems out of the prison systems. That's where everybody goes. If you need a connection,
right,
you find yourself a local prison worker. You say, hey, I need this. What can you find on the yard? They come into the yard. They meet up with the known whatever you're looking for on the yard, and deals happen. And let me for those that maybe don't understand the gamut of prison, deals get struck all the way across the country. It's not just what happens in your local area. I mean, I've watched men out of the penitentiary system walk right out the sally ports, get into vans, and go home with workers from the penitentiary and come back 2 days later. You just close your eyes. You just pretend like you didn't see it. It's none of your business.
Right.
I see more people working in the penitentiary that are marrying the inmates in the penitentiary. I've seen it all, man. I've seen it all, and I'm not even saying I'm the most seen of them all. There's people that know.
No, I'm sure, brother. I'm sure.
But
Donald wanted to point out this sounds like Long Island serial killer level corruption, Lee. I mean, isn't that the
God? That case.
That's another case that's so ridiculous with all.
That's got so much corruption. So much corruption.
The captain of the squad's got porn and
the chief of police
out of his car and he beats the dude up.
Well, do you remember the inmate
in prison? I mean, really?
Do you remember the inmate where the woman CEO walked him out of the jail? He was going to be convicted of murder. She walked him out of the jail. They went on the run together. I think the woman's last name was White or something, and it was that big, tall inmate.
Oh, yeah.
And they walked right out of the jail, and they went on the run, and then they ended up getting in a car accident and a shootout, and he lived, she died.
Right.
And this type of stuff it's every day. Like the stories I could tell from, like, if I was a person that wanted to run my mouth and just give up the secrets of secrets, don't think that the prisoners in the penitentiary are not helping stuff happen on the streets, because they are. But also don't think that people that from the streets aren't reaching out to those inmates in the penitentiary to help them get stuff done. So, I mean, it's like, so much goes into it. It doesn't surprise me about the judge and the girls and the stuff like that. I mean, maybe a judge is a little surprising, but as an overall, man,
I want to make a general comment here. The chat is just blowing up. Thank you.
Yeah, did you see,
really active in the chat? I'm trying my best to keep up with it. It's crazy,
Pete, you didn't see this in the chat. Someone pointed out my channel, which is still a little tiny channel, just hit 6.66 subscribers. 6.66.
Nice.
They're like, tell Pete you just hit 6.66.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember when I hit that, I was thinking the same thing. Like, that's so awesome,
I took a screenshot. I took a screenshot a long time ago because I happened to be looking at my phone when I hit 666 subscribers, and I can't remember if I sent that to you or not. I can't remember if we knew each other at that time. But just growing up with the way I did, I thought it was funny that I looked at my phone and it was 666 subscribers, and I screenshotted it. I have that somewhere, but now we're at 6.66. So times have changed in a few months.
That's
congratulations on the growth. I remember when I first. I'm not sure what you were at. Lee, when Pete brought my attention, Pete reached out to me and he says, "Hey, I'd really like you to listen to this gentleman. He's turning out to be a good friend of mine. Can you give him a listen, see what you think?" So I ventured over, and you were. Yeah. I'm not saying you were a small timer, but you're not where you were today.
Yeah.
And I gave you a listen. I was highly impressed by everything you had to say, the way you handled yourself. I wanted to hit the slow down button a little bit. I understood a little bit better, but I knew you were going to be something special, just the same as like when Pete reached out to me very early in our relationship and asked me to do a little bit of work with him. And, we were both just kind of up and coming at that time too. And it meant a lot to me when he did that. And, it's been a pleasure watching both of you guys in action. I do it from a distance. I do it from the quiets of behind the scenes, but I tend to do that. I do that with Lucky. I do that with both of you guys. And there's numerous others out there as content creators that I follow. And I'm just so happy to see how well you guys are doing. And, I think that there is a need for all of our voices. I think each of us brings something unique. And Lee, that's something I want to give to you as well, as you and I are just beginning our relationship and our building. And I do watch you. I do follow you. I'm highly impressed by you. And I think you are critical to this platform. And I want you to have that confidence to just keep diving in, keep going forward, keep bringing that to the table. The same with Pete, that I've always encouraged him, and Lucky and Swamp Rose, who was a partner of mine for a while. And I was always so blessed to be able to work with her. We're all needed here.
That's how we all need to help each other out. Like I was telling Lee how his self-confidence, man, it's just like off the charts as compared to when you started. You just got that self-confidence now, and it's awesome. And it's totally working, and it's totally
funny.
like taking control of the situation. So
it's funny because I feel it's funny that you mention it. First of all, thank you, AR, for that. And both of you guys have been amazing at helping me get started, and I want to pay it forward. So before I do that, let me say this. I met at CrimeCon a guy. He's been in a feature documentary called Outcry. He was a coach of a college, or I don't know if it was high school coach football team. One of his players was accused of, I think, molesting a 4-year-old, maybe murder as well, wrongfully convicted, and he got on a documentary about the show. He's just starting in YouTube. He's decided to retire from football coaching and to do YouTube. He's got 68 people on his channel last I saw. I want to pay it forward to him as well. Wrong Place, Wrong Crime is the name of his show on YouTube. Clint Harper's name. I'm going to have him on my show as soon as possible. But that, I just want to say, you guys did that kind of stuff when I was little.
Yeah,
to help get his channel going as well. And the last thing I'll say,
wrong crime. I like that.
Wrong Place, Wrong Crime. Clint Harper.
All right, Clint.
Yeah, so he's just getting started. I'm going to try to bring him on, but my confidence has gotten to the point where I have to say I was super, super not confident in the beginning days, and I'm afraid that I've become a prick. It's one thing to get confidence and to finally stop getting so beat up every time someone insults you, but I never want to be a prick. The guy that's like, fuck you, I don't care what you say. So it's hard for me because I'm new to the whole confidence thing,
No, you're doing just great, dude. You're doing great.
We all get it, Lee. I came back. I haven't been doing much content. I've been engaging in a lot of other battles outside of YouTube, and I come back and I do a video. And, for the majority, 98% of everything we get is the best love, the best respects. The community is amazing. But then, I, like you, I tend to sometimes gravitate to catching those comments that just kind of ring in. Here I am. I'm a grifter again. And all I can say back to the person is, I'm such a grifter. I've done 2 videos in the last 71 days. I'm grinding so hardcore right now. I've done 2 videos in 71 days. It's amazing. But, and then you got to laugh at the ones that say, I've got Kermit the Frog arms. Well, I am damn well proud of my Kermit the Frog arms.
Dark Soth says, Lee, you've always been a prick. So
yeah.
There's a couple of them like that.
You just own that shit. You just take it and you own that shit.
You guys, just everybody take notice of my background, because we got today on the left, Kermit trying to get a little bit of weight in. And just wait till I get healthy. You're gonna see Kermit the Frog exploding.
That's right. Like the other one on your other shoulder there. That's awesome. That's
hilarious.
Awesome. Well, our live here, Murder Metal Mayhem, go an hour and a half. So, boy, the time has just flown by. We got an hour and 18 minutes, and still, looks like it's happening. Everybody seems to be digging what we're doing. And if you forgot to hit that like button, let's do that, please. It helps the video get out there to more people. Comment if you're watching it on the replay. If you're watching it live, get in the chat. And subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to both these guys' channel. I've been flashing that up on the screen quite a bit. So just, get into that. And then Wrong Place, Wrong Time, Wrong Crime. That's another one you could add to the list.
Yeah, I'm hoping Clint will get that thing rolling. He's a super nice guy. Although I'm glad I don't have to go camera sitting side by side. He's a monster. He's like 6'5" monster. And
Oh,
so
wow.
when we took a selfie together, I felt like, oh my God, I'm a tiny human being. But yeah, he's a big guy. He's really cool. Great energy. Can't wait to get him on the show.
Yeah, the artist who does my book covers, he's the same way. And I had never met him face to face, and we met at a convention where I live, and a smaller convention, not a big crime con, but a similar mini version of that. And he's like this giant, and I'm 5'10", so I look like a child next to him. It was kind of a weird photo shoot, trying to take pictures together where I didn't look like this, just like this little baby almost with this big dude. But plus he's got like really long hair. Total death metal guy. That's how we met. He did like I think 3 of the Low 12 album covers and a DVD cover, and then all my books but one. So yeah, it's been it worked with him a lot. Brian Usual from Chicago. But look at here in the chat, guys, to see if there's anything that we want to make sure we get the people involved here. Anybody have a topic they want to talk about, whether it be Idaho 4 or this one, Tiggle Bitties.
I can't do it. I can't. Tiggle Bitties.
Is that you? Is that somebody for you, Lee?
Somebody came. I lost.
She's laughing in the picture too, so she's laughing at us, laughing at this name.
I was going live with another content creator, and yeah, I was on another show with another content creator and Tiggle.
Oh, I get what she did there. Okay, I'm a little slow. I'm a little slow. So, thanks, KDF. That's cool. That's cool. We're all married here, so we're not. But no, that's all good. Let's see here.
Trying to get me in trouble on this show.
Susan Russo says the new sealed document that dropped from the defense. Are you guys familiar with that?
On the Idaho case?
I guess.
Yeah, they're still trying to seal stuff from coming out.
Really?
And I the other reason why I kind of know a little bit of it, and I'll give a shout out to Jules. She was kind of going over that, and something in there is even talking about they could potentially use it in the future for something, for a trial or something. So I'm going to be digging into that as well, just trying to kind of piece together what I can gather from it. I think it'd be a good idea if we all do, because these things are seeping out. There's still so many questions. And, look, I've been the one, Lee, Pete, I'm the one that stood up and said, hey, this guy pled guilty. We're just damn well done now. There's just not much else going to come from this. I knew an appeal was just far-fetched, and it's only because of my experience in the system and how difficult these things are. Appeals are not easy to get in the first place, especially through plea agreements. And I understand what people are saying, but they need to look and understand what I'm used to. I go through the system.
Right.
I've been through this. And when you see one person out of 3,000 people get an appeal when they shouldn't, and nobody else does, well, it kind of rings to you that it doesn't happen. But there's something still twinging behind the scenes, in my opinion. I'm not sure what it is, because there's no reason for things to still be sealed. There's no reason for everybody from the defense side of things to still be silent. Like that really, I thought for sure we'd get a statement from the defense, whether it be Bicca Barlow or somebody coming to the table and having something to say. We haven't seen anything as of yet, which tells me there's something churning back there, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lot like you with the thought process. I mean, I didn't expect an appeal. I figured, and I still say this a lot to this day, which is that the likelihood, like there's all this talk from some content creators, we're about to solve this. And I'm like, there's never going to be a trial. There's never going to be a trial. This is a done deal. Like the only way, in my opinion, it's not a done deal is if somebody proves Brian Kohberger was not in the house, exculpatory evidence that shows that he wasn't there, in which the case that undoes everything, or somebody comes forward and confesses to the crime that isn't Brian Kohberger and can provide and have the attorneys listen to that, a piece of information that only the killer could have known. That's the only way that's going to happen. And I don't see those scenarios playing out. I think this dies a slow death, and people are going to talk about it for decades, and they're going to have theories about what happened for decades. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change anything other than we're just going to talk about it. But that's kind of the way it feels.
No, I get what you're saying. I could see this languishing on for so long because people are just starving for answers, and all we can do is throw stuff at the chalkboard or the dartboard and see if it sticks. I mean, unless somebody comes forth with like a deathbed confession or some sort of, somebody has a break. Let's say, Hunter, gets so distraught. I mean, he looked like horrible in those documentaries. He's lost a ton of weight. He looks bad, like he doesn't sleep anymore. He might break, and then who knows what could happen then, I don't know.
I do have a story from CrimeCon that it's kind of interesting on the whole confession and then somebody else later confessing thing. I thought I'll try to do it in a short amount of time if I can. I can't remember the guy's name. Leo something. He spent 20, 30 years in prison for the murder of his wife, and it ended up that he never did it. They had eyewitnesses that came forth that said they saw sketchy things like him loading her body into the trunk in the middle of the night. That never happened. It was complete fabricated evidence. And the interesting thing about the case was the woman's body, his wife's body, was found in a drainage ditch, and the car was there, but her body was about 1.5 miles back the road in the drainage ditch from where the car was. And that was part that was never really explained. So he gets ultimately convicted for his wife's murder, goes to jail, spends all this time. Later on, this guy comes out and he confesses, I was the one that did it. Now, at the crime scene at the car, a pack of cigarettes was left beside the car. It was the guy's cigarettes that he smoked, and he's the one that left the pack there. He smoked the cigarettes after he had killed her. But here's the crazy thing. That was one of those examples of like only the killer could have known this. What he said happened was 1.5 miles down the road where her body was found is where he actually stopped her and killed her in her car. She tried to get away from him through the car and drive, and he threw it in park while she was trying to pull away, and it broke the transmission. That car could only drive for about 1.5 miles further up the road. The fact that he knew the detail that the transmission had been broke and he drove the car about 1.5 miles up the road before he had to ditch it because the transmission completely kaputzed was something only the killer could have known. And it exonerated the guy that was in jail for his whole life for a murder that he didn't commit.
Wow.
So that kind of thing is the reason why they ask inmates during confessions to tell us something that only the killer could have known. But here's the interesting thing in Brian Kohberger's case. They didn't want Brian Kohberger to tell what happened because they were afraid, in their words, that he might weaken his own plea deal. In other words, Kohberger might say a detail that couldn't have been true or was inaccurate, and it would make his plea look incorrect. So they didn't want Kohberger to tell his story about what happened because it might weaken his plea deal. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, man. Interesting stuff. Well, very cool here. What a great way to end it, man. Like in a blaze of glory here. We've been just firing off. Is there anything that you guys wanted to add to this before we go? And I did want to give away some stickers. Unfortunately, you guys cannot see me tonight. I don't know what's up with my phone or my camera on my laptop or what's going on. But the logo that you see in the top right there, the Murder Metal Mayhem with the barbed wire, I've got stickers, 3-inch stickers of that if you're interested. I'd like to keep them in the U.S., though, just for cost. But if you want to drop a comment in the comment section, if you're interested in getting one of these stickers, if you could answer how many seconds is 11 minutes and 6 seconds. I'll give you 1 minute to answer it, and then I'll use a random number generator, and I'll pick 3 people. So go ahead. I'll give you a minute. How many seconds is 11 minutes and 6 seconds? Okay. If you haven't heard me say that, what's that, AR?
I want to give a quick shout out to one of my favorite people in the world, Miss Cheryl Borkese, up in Canada. This young lady and I have become so bonded that even when we don't have the opportunity to talk, I think through the air and through our thoughts, we still we still talk. And trust me, Cheryl, I felt every bit of love while I was in the hospital that you sent. And I couldn't be more thankful. And then when I got out, I got to see the emails. I knew it was real even before I was able to read the emails. So I send you all my love. I hope you're doing well. And I send you a big hug, like big hug.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, let's see here. I'm going to call it. We got a minute. I got J Ray. J Ray, email me at pete@murdermetalmayhem.com and put in the subject line, I want a sticker, and I'll send you a sticker. Okay. And let's see. 1-1, you won a sticker. So go ahead and email me at pete@murdermetalmayhem.com and put I want a sticker in the subject, and then I will send you a sticker as well.
111.
Yeah, 111. That's awesome. Let's see here. Somebody said 660. Let's say RV and keep it rolling 666. I'll take that for $1. No, you win the last sticker. Just email me, pete@murdermetalmayhem.com with I want a sticker in the subject line, and you will win. Very, very cool. And I did the 5 gifted memberships earlier, so welcome the new members to the channel. And we like to do these lives Thursday. Lee and I have been doing them, and AR's joined us on a few. Really cool. Like to get maybe Lucky to do one of these with us sometime. That would be a lot of fun. Lucky's a great dude, and want to definitely give love to all our friends here because it's a good community. And like we've been saying, we can help each other out. If you see a fellow creator that's new, that's maybe doing something that you're picking up, like, man, if he could just get that figured out, he would just be on point, even better. And I think that's great. And then in turn, Lee goes and helps somebody else out. That's what it's all about, so. Yeah. Very cool, gentlemen. Well, thank you both for coming on, guys. Great to see you both, and great to see everybody here tonight. I had a lot of fun doing this, and now I'm going to go check the score of the Yankee game, and hopefully I'm not flipping tables over because I'm pissed that I missed the game, but here we go. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, I've heard it all before. It's just the outro and I'm out of here. If you did, you wouldn't be loving this sick, weird groove. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment to help us get out to more. Smash that like and subscribe before you go. You must be some high achiever to watch this whole thing. Copyright 2025 by Horns Hot Productions. Yeah.